Am I in the way? Not at all.
No, let me grab you a chair real quick.
I got one over here.
Oh, okay. Oh, there they are. My goodness. All right, well, hello. My name is Jonathan Papin. I'm the Director of Rehab over on the Health Center. And again, it is so wonderful to see so many people here. This is very, very exciting. I'm a little out of sorts just because of it. Anyway, just quick, I think the block is like 2 hours. I don't think we're going to be here 2 hours. But we're going to be talking about getting yourself up off the floor. And, but just a quick introduction in terms of my background. I've been here at Woodland Pond. I guess I got here about a year after it opened. So I've been here, I want to say 12 years. Have we been open 13? I had originally graduated New Paltz College with an art degree. Found it very difficult to make my living as a freelance artist. Went back to school, became a social worker. Did that for a while. Worked with folks getting out of a psychiatric hospital and placing them in the community and making sure that they stayed good neighbors and that the neighbors stayed good to them. Making sure that folks were set in the community. And then eventually decided, hey, I'd check out this thing called occupational therapy. And so went back to school once again, got my degree in OT as it's called, and have been doing that now for, I guess close to 30 years. Have been, as I said, here at Woodland Pond for 12 years, and I've been director of rehab for two and a half, maybe going on 3. But anyway, I've become very much a part of Woodland Pond. I recognize a lot of faces, but there are definitely some new ones, which is fantastic. We're going to be talking a bit about balance and the importance of balance, and also if you do find yourself on the floor and uninjured, that's going to be something I'm going to be repeating an awful lot, because oftentimes when you fall, you get injured. But from what we understand in terms of the policy here is that if you fall, they have to call 911. And a lot of folks are able to get themselves up off the floor because they're not injured. And so I had started a program which I need to sort of give it another shot in the arm, training staff members, a lot of times the maintenance staff who are here overnight, or the security staff, how to assist someone in getting them off the floor. And it's a very similar technique to the one I'm going to be talking about today, about getting yourself off, because it does rely on one chair. You have to get yourself off the floor onto a chair. And the technique I show employees is called the 2-chair method. So it's very, very similar. They are not authorized to physically assist, but what I train them to do is kind of what I'm going to be doing today, is I show them how to coach a person in doing it themselves. And what I tell them, and I'm going to be saying this an awful lot for you guys too, is if at any point when you're trying to get yourself up off the floor, you feel a sudden pain, or something pinching, or some terrible unpleasantness, you want to get yourself back onto the floor, because it means that you perhaps have an injury and you don't want to make it worse, or you don't want to get up struggling with this terrible pain only to fall again, which can happen. So Connor has gone to make some more copies, which is fantastic. But before I get underway, does anyone have any questions? Yes? Oh, well, fantastic, super keen. Well, do you want to pass them around to that part of the room, and I'll pass them around here? Super swell, thank you. You know what, I discovered over there in the health center wearing a mask that I cannot handle paper, because I have to do that. I have to do the little licky thing. And I know that's probably terribly unsanitary, and I do apologize, but I am fully boosted. Look at that. But if you've ever tried to hand out papers while wearing a mask, hello, no, you're good, okay, fantastic. Okay. Well, with Connor's help, I now have copies for everyone. which is wonderful. And then this is not necessarily a patented or a method that belongs to anyone. It's something that you find a lot on, on the website. I think we're good. If you just look up online, you'll see how to get yourself up off of the floor. I did see a couple of different variations on this, but this was the most consistent one that I saw pretty much throughout. So, are we ready to begin? All right, so what I'm going to, oh, yes, absolutely, thanks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate, so I'll be spending a lot of time on the floor. I'm going to clear out my one of the things, though, I want to talk about is when you find yourself on the floor, it's very important to take a moment. It's very, very disturbing. And just knowing this from my working in rehab, everyone who has fallen and injured themselves are so cross with themselves. You know, why did I fall? And you know, at the moment you've fallen, you're probably so angry at yourself. And sometimes people are thinking, well, I'm going to use that anger to power up off the floor. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. And then you just get angry. And so it's very important that when you find yourself on the floor, to try to relax and just take a moment and recoup. Now, there's a lot of the things, in fact, the first picture on the illustration shows a person like this. Did my speaker just do something funny?
No.
Oh, okay. This looks like it's, if I had something on my head, looks like it's a comfortable position, but it really isn't. This is not a good position to stay in because I'm on my hip bone, and my hip bone is not very cushy. And if I stay here too long, I'm also on my shoulder. My right arm is going to fall asleep, and I run the risk of developing a medical condition called rhabdomyolysis, which is where if you're in one position for too long and your muscles are being compressed, right now my muscles are being compressed by my hip bone, it can cause a chain of events which can be life-threatening. So what I want to do is I want to get over here like this. Now, a lot of people feel that this is a worse position to be in. But believe it or not, this is relatively comfortable. Sometimes people feel like they need to have something under their head, and if you could grab something and throw it under, a lot of people's arms don't do this. Our shoulders don't allow us to get one hand behind the head. But if you can, just take a moment and be like, well, I'm going to forgive myself for falling. It's an accident. We didn't plan on it. That's why they call them accidents. And I want to just relax. I want to then kind of do a quick mental checklist and make sure I'm not injured. Because if I'm injured, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to call 911, which of course is, well, how do I call 911? And I understand that most people have those PERS system. I do a lot of talks to folks who are going to places other than Woodland Pond, and of course they don't have PERS system. They have things like the Lifeline, you know, or the first call for help. It's some sort of a wrist gadget or a necklace that you hit, and here, you know, it links us to the concierge, and someone comes up to your apartment right away. I can't tell you, I've been a therapist now for close to 30 years. Oh, I got a fuzzy. That. Oh dear. And I cannot tell you how often folks who have the Lifeline, this is out in the community, who are paying for the service every month, and they've fallen, they've broken their hip, they were on the floor for hours and hours. After about a day and a half, generally you don't survive. We've had people who were on the floor for a day and a half, and we said, but you had your Lifeline on. Why didn't you push it? I didn't want to bother them. And I cannot tell you, that is almost 100%. We've had so many folks who've said, I just didn't want to bother them. I'm laying on my kitchen floor for a day and a half, and I didn't want to bother them. So, that little button is very important. You want to bother people. You want to get help. And one of the things is, if and again, I'll go back to where I was in my resting position. So if I'm not injured, if I'm not injured, I'm gonna collect my thoughts, I'm gonna try to get myself off the floor. If I feel like I've injured myself, if I start to move and everything hurts, then I'm gonna hit my button. So here I am, I'm resting, I'm forgiving myself for falling, and then I wanna say, okay, I think I can move. So what I wanna do is I wanna move my head a little bit. Well, my head feels okay. Then I'm gonna move my arm. My arm feels all right. Ooh, my elbow's a little bruised, but I can move it. The shoulder's a little sore, but I can move it. So I'm taking stock and making sure, because sometimes the excitement of I've just fallen, and it's not excitement in a good way, it's excitement in a bad way. I'll turn this way a little bit so folks can see me as well. Kind of can mask that, a perception of pain. So you take a moment, you rest, and then you go over each body part. Well, all right, I can move my ankles. They might be a little bruised, but I can move them. And I can move my one leg, and I can move my hip. And if you can, let your hip come out this way. If I've broken my hip, I can't do this. I might be able to do this, but most likely not. But if I've broken a hip, I certainly can't do this and bring it back. And so I'm just like, well, I'm still in one piece, and I think I can get up. So I'm gonna give it a try, because I went to the presentation that Jonathan gave, and I remember the steps. And sometimes just trying not to panic, and again, this is where this position is pretty good. I'm not on any bony prominences. I do have some bones in my spine, of course. So if I do find myself in a position where, if I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and I just can't get off the floor, I'm gonna once again hit my button. And then we wanna make sure that the button is being worn, because we've also had stories in rehab of folks who have a button, but it's hanging on the bedpost. And so unfortunately, it doesn't do you very good. From what I understand, the buttons are even, and can you still hear me? I don't know if this is still turned on. But I think the buttons are fully waterproof. Am I correct in that? They can be worn in the shower. I don't think you wear them in swimming, but you can wear them in the showers? I think so. I think so. We could double check that. But if for some reason you can't, then you want to hang the call bell, your PERS button. You don't want to hang it up high. You want to hang it somewhere low, in anticipation, not so low that you can't reach it. But if you do wind up on the floor of the shower, and that is one of the places where sometimes people fall, then I can reach it from a floor position. So anyway, let's get back here. All right, so if I'm going to get up, what most people try to do is they sit up like this, they get themselves in what we call a long sit, propped on my hands. And then they think, well, if I could just get my feet on the floor, well, I can do that too. And then and then I'm gonna, and nothing seems to work. Nothing seems to work. And the truth of the matter is, you just can't get up this way. I mean, there's some funky technique where you can cross your legs and get over it, but it's very difficult. And so this technique, the one that's illustrated on this handout that I gave you, is basically the best one to do. And this is the one that I teach folks to coach you through. If someone comes by, you've fallen in the dining room, and one or two of the dining staff has taken my course that I give to the employees, they can coach you through getting you up. Again, if you feel that you're not injured, and you can give it a try. We've had lots of folks who have fallen and have told us later, after the emergency folks have come and they've been all checked out, I just needed a hand up. And so that's why I do this training for staff members. So anyway, the way I have to get up is I have to get up onto my hands and knees. And that's kind of difficult. So in order to do that, I've gotta somehow get back over onto my side. Now this is where I said don't rest. So you wanna get onto your side, but only when you're getting ready to get up onto your knees. Because if I'm resting like this, I'm putting too much pressure on my hip bone, I'm putting too much pressure on my shoulder. But I can do it for a moment because I'm gonna try to get up. And getting up is sometimes difficult. Some people decide to get up under their arm like this and flex their leg, and they kind of push, and they push, and they get up. Whew, that's tough. Now, the other thing you'll notice is my knees begin to hurt like crazy. And so some folks say, well, you know, I just can't get up on my knees to get to the chair, because now I have to get to my chair, and this is the way I do it. So there's one other technique if your knees just won't tolerate it. So let's say I'm out here, I've decided I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna roll this time this way, and then I gotta just kind of play with my body and see if I can get up, protect my face, push here. And again, if I feel like it's just too much of a struggle, I've gotta slowly let myself down, roll over, and hit my butt. And then just relax and wait for help. So, everything's going well. I'm up here, and I start to crawl toward my chair, and oh, it hurts so much I can't even stand it. So I come back down. The other way I can get to the chair is this way. I sit up, if I can. Whew, goodness. Then I do what they call a Hiney Scoot. I kind of move this way. Now some folks say, try this, but this is called crab walking. And this is sometimes very difficult. Other folks say if you can sit up this way, try to scoot one hiney at a time. Yeah. What I'm doing is something we call hip hiking. And I'm moving my butt and I'm cleaning the floor. But if I need to stop and rest, I can. And if I really need a good rest, I can come back down, carefully, and lay in this position. I've almost made it, but not there yet. Now, the tricky part with the Hiney Scoop is it only gets you up to the chair. In order to get onto the chair, I still have to get onto my knees. But if we experience that terrible pain and you couldn't crawl to the chair, you can Hiney Scoot. And I'm not, Hiney Scooting is not an easy task, but neither is crawling. So, but I must get on my knees if I'm gonna do this. And then I've got to get my legs over here. And sometimes it takes a while to sort of figure out, well, okay, where do I put this leg if I'm going to get over? This one has to bend a little. And you may just have to take a while to figure out, well, how do I get my body around to this position? But eventually, in order to get into the chair, I have to do this. And I'm almost there. And again, if I feel terrible pain, all of a sudden, oh, it's got me. Something is really hurting. And it only started to hurt now. I'm going to once again get back on the floor, not be cross with myself, get into this position, and hit my butt. So, all this is so far good. Here I am. Now, this is the next difficult part. I'll turn this way so everybody can see. And the illustration makes it look very easy. But I tell everyone, this is, if you can tolerate it so far, this is the next hardest part. Is I have to decide, well, which leg is the stronger, my left or my right? Let's say it's my left leg, and then I have to get it up here. And that looks easy, but sometimes it's very difficult. For those folks over here, it's my right leg that's strong. I can do it, but generally what I may have to do is reach down here and, get it up. Our bodies don't move the way we like them to as we get older. Now, I'm gonna push on the bottom of the chair. I'm gonna just drag this foot around, and I'm not gonna stand. I'm gonna collapse into the chair. It's very important that you don't. Now, one of the things you'll see, and if you Google this, they'll show the person doing this. They'll say, okay, get the knee up. Technique is the same. They'll say, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and voila. You will fall. With all that movement, with all that turning, you're going to be so dizzy. I'm dizzy. I almost fell. So when you get up there, you're going to sit. And you're just going to relax. And you're going to relax some more. And you're going to forgive yourself for falling. And you're going to tell somebody. Down at the bottom it says, please tell your healthcare provider, tell MJ, tell Sarah, tell someone that you fell. It's important. They can keep tabs on you, make sure nothing develops later. You're probably going to be bruised for sure. You're going to be sore like the dickens. Doing all that is going to make you sore, especially your knees. But again, at any point you feel like this is too much, I've got pain here, or a shooting this, or a stabbing that, we're going to go back. Oh, I think I've done this in, haven't I?
No, it's all right.
Oh, okay. You can still hear me all right?
Yes.
I just hear the little clicking thing, and I'm sure I'm not quite doing it right. I don't think you're supposed to lay on it. Anywho, does anyone have any questions so far?
Yep.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Which direction, you've got one leg up,
Uh-huh.
which direction do you rotate to get your bottom onto the seat? Are you going towards the bent knee or the other one?
Oh, dearie, look what I've done. Let's see, if I'm up like this,
Yes.
and I begin to, it's going to be probably the non-bent knee buttock. Because if I go toward my bent knee, watch what happens.
Yeah.
My butt misses the chair. So, and some people even get nice and close, and then it's real simple. Because it's obviously this butt cheek is the closest, and even if I have to get here and just collapse, woof,
Forward there.
and take a breather. I'm sorry?
That's good.
Yes, so,
Do that again, show me
yes,
the
yes.
direction you turn.
okay, so if I'm getting up with my right knee, my right leg is the strongest, and I can get up here, I'm here, I've made it to my chair, then obviously we want to pick a chair that isn't going to tip over.
Oh,
So we have to pick a relatively good chair.
yeah.
Yeah. And if I get my right leg up, then I'm gonna get my left tuchus, because then I can sort of drag that behind and get on and take a rest. I don't know about you, but it's getting warm in here. But if I take my I better not. If I take my sweater off, all my mics fall off. So I'll just unzip it. So then again, if my left leg is going up, I'm gonna, and you'll feel that, it just seems to make a kind of a natural. I'm turning away from the knee that's up. And then I'm resting. That was tough. So, yes, oh, absolutely.
I noticed in that process you did not use the arms. So you
Well-
don't have to have the arms on a chair?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because basically what I'm doing is I'm going from, hands and knees, or what we call quadruped, to then I'm just resting. And if I can tolerate this for a moment or two with my knees, then I can rest here a moment. And I don't really need the armrests, because all I'm doing is, and sometimes the armrests help, but I'm afraid this chair, if I push on two armrests, are gonna tip. So all I really need is just this, and then this, and to get on. And I can do that with a bed too. I can do that with a couch. Couches sometimes are a little tricky because the cushions are so squishy, and so you kind of sink down into them. And again, at any point, please feel free to use the purge button. I think it does come in a wristband type of design, or a necklace. It's a service that's included, you know, in your residency here, and so it's something that you want to utilize. So, oh yes.
Is it a good idea for residents to have carpet, wall-to-wall carpet, rather than a hardwood floor?
Well, it kind of depends. Some folks like the wood floors because sometimes when they fatigue or because of other issues, their feet kind of shuffle, and so then carpeting can be worse. Other folks find that carpeting is just more attractive, or you know, it's really a matter of personal preference. Obviously, more important than perhaps what you have on your floor is what you have on your feet. You know, we always discourage things like, now the sandals with the heel straps are okay. It's the ones that don't have any heel straps. You know, like the Crocs. We were just talking about Crocs this morning. Crocs are very easy to get on, but they're not the safest shoe, and they're not the most supportive shoes. So we love shoes like sneakers. Those are fantastic. The SAS shoes, you know, slip-on shoes that have the Velcro, anything that's going to stay put. Slippers with rubber bottoms, fantastic. We love those. We're not such a fan of slipper socks because you just don't have the support you need. You know, one of the things we do a lot in the outpatient rehab department is work on people's balance, their ability to keep themselves upright and to prevent falls. Our balance is a very complex mechanism. Most of it, in terms of neurologically, it's in our inner ear. That's where our balance and equilibrium gets its start. So much of it is tied into our visual system. So if our eyesight is beginning to fail, our balance begins to fail because the two are interlinked. But in terms of where it all is affected motorically, that's neurologically, the inner ear and our eyes, it's our ankles. It starts with our ankles. So weak ankles can be a cause for decreased balance. And then it kind of works its way up through our legs. If folks have good strong ankles, sometimes it's the gastroc muscles that are weak, or the hamstrings, or the quadriceps, but so much of it starts down in the ankles. And so one of the things we can do if you feel like your balance is getting a little bit different, and you don't feel as steady, one of the greatest litmus test for, well, is my balance what it used to be, is as I walk around my apartment, am I touching things? If I'm touching things as I move around my apartment, your balance isn't so good. And you might benefit from either a cane, or a rollator, or a rolling walker, or perhaps coming in for some therapy to work on your balance. Because then I was looking again online about all kinds of things, and they show, you know, all kinds of exercises to do for your balance, you know, this tightrope walking, these lunges, but all of those things would be the kind of thing that you'd probably want to get started with a therapist, so that there's someone standing right next to you, and then they move up to, like, you know, single leg stances where you're putting your foot this way and doing all kinds of other stuff. And those sort of things definitely will help improve your balance. Our brain works to improve things that are difficult for it to do by being challenged to doing so. Well, I'm saying that all funny. The way our brain improves upon what we do is to be challenged with something it cannot do. But you wouldn't want to try it on your own. So that's where when you meet with your therapist, they'll have you try something that we wouldn't want you necessarily to try on your own until it becomes so easy that you can do it on your own. Yes?
We have yoga classes twice a week too, that work on
Fantastic.
balance.
Excellent. And standing yoga as well?
Seated yoga,
Uh-huh.
standing yoga, floor yoga.
Wow. Good heavens, you guys actually get on the floor. That's wonderful. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Getting up, back off the floor is very difficult. You know, and again, I was looking, you know, in preparation for this presentation, and I saw some pretty bizarre methods. One woman does this sort of corkscrew getting down and a reverse corkscrew getting back up again. Another person did this sort of downward facing dog where if you can't bend your knees, you know how to walk your hands toward yourself. I tried that and I showed fellow therapists, and it was very difficult. One of the other things I had brought, and we had given this out some years ago, and I was remembering it, and I thought, you know, I will, and I don't necessarily have to give it out to everybody, but I can just leave it in a spot where you can pick one up if you'd like. It basically says, can I benefit from rehab? And there's some questions here about walking. There's some questions about taking care of yourself. There's some questions about memory and swallowing and changes in your voice. And each little section says, well, you may benefit from some occupational therapy or some physical therapy or speech and language pathology. And we offer all those 3 disciplines through the outpatient department here. Generally, those services are covered at least 80% under Medicare. The secondary insurance is one of those things we're working on. We are covered and recognized by a number of secondary insurances. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones that most of the folks here at Woodland Pond have, the Empire Plan and Blue Cross Blue Shield, don't recognize us as a preferred provider, but I'm working very hard to change that. But for a lot of folks, you know, a brief stint in rehab, working, if anyone knows our physical therapist, Lois, she's absolutely fantastic. We have another physical therapist, Grant, who is with us Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our occupational therapist is Erin, and speech therapist, Amy Gross. She's fantastic. Did anyone have any other questions? Did you want me to kind of go over the technique again, or?
Here.
Yes, ooh, yes.
Now, as far as getting therapy to improve your balance, do you need a doctor's referral, or can you just come and sign up for it?
Yes. Unlike the yoga classes or the exercises classes for therapy, in order for Medicare to cover it, you do need a doctor's script. And on this piece of paper, I have our telephone number and our fax number. You would just call your doctor and say, now here's the thing, some doctors will say, oh yes, I of course remember you, I saw you, a month or so ago. Some doctors say, well yes, I remember you, and I saw you a month ago, but I want to see you again if I'm going to give a script. And that's just the way, unfortunately, sometimes doctors operate. But sometimes you can just give a call and they can send the script over and we can get you started.
Just to get back to that ringing thing you were doing.
Yes, the PERS.
Can we swim with that? Because that would be great.
I'm not certain. I believe they might be water resistant, and I don't know if Gretchen is in the back room anymore. Is this really a back room? Or is it just like a, hello. Oh, okay. Gretchen's not sure either. I believe they're water resistant, but before you wear it into the shower, we better double check.
I'm talking about swimming in a pool.
Yes, I have a feeling they're probably not waterproof. Usually these devices, I know that the one that, the Lifeline is a brand name of the Philips company. Theirs is water resistant, but not waterproof. They do say you can shower in it, you can't take a bath with it. So I'm just guessing that the PERS system is probably the same. But I'm glad to see that you're wearing it. Fantastic.
How about if you have no chair and very close to?
Well, that's where we talked about if you are out in the middle of the room, you've got to get yourself either up into quadruped and walk this way, and you may have to take a break and lay back down and rest. Or we talked about that other technique of what we call the Hiney Scoot. And this is assuming that I could sit in a long, what we call a long sit position. It does take a long time, and woof, I may have to rest and then get up and go some more. And again, it also assumes that I have the range of motion in my shoulders. a lot of times folks can't bring their arms back behind them to do the Hiney Scoot. And now there is a technique they show again. It requires a lot of flexibility in my hamstrings. I can Hiney Scoot without putting my hands behind me, just like this. Now, it's going to take a very long time, but if I'm really okay and I don't want to hit my purse, if I just feel like, you know, that was a dumb mistake and I'm going to get myself, one of these days, there it is. I don't necessarily have to get my hands, but in order to maintain this position, my hamstrings have to be pretty flexible. And so again, they say, a lot of the things online show people, because I can get there a lot faster, even if it's a little bit more uncomfortable. And each time you guys can't hear it, but every time I move, my knees are going clunk, 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 clunk. Anywho, but yes, that's how you would get yourself. Now, again, that's going to be really difficult if you're on a hard floor. It isn't terribly comfortable on the carpeting, just because it's not very thick carpeting. Unfortunately, a lot of people say, well, if I get really thick carpeting, will that keep me from getting injured when I fall? And probably not. It's a little like the concept in some nursing homes. They give folks these special underpants, which have big old pads on the hips. I don't know if it's going to really prevent a fall or a fractured hip if you do fall. It's a bit of foam. It makes you look a little hippie, unfortunately, and I don't think it really absorbs the impact of a fall. And sometimes, unfortunately, if our bones do break, they say that a lot of fractures can occur spontaneously. Unfortunately, osteoporosis sets in more so in women than in men, just because of how we're built and how our body uses calcium, that sometimes the bones can break. This is where a lot of times people say, well, you know, I don't remember tripping, but all of a sudden, boom, my leg just gave out. And most likely that's what they call a pathological fracture. But one of the things I talk a lot about, and this is a real simple thing in terms of your balance, this is something everybody can do, is drink water. Drink water. And everybody hates to drink water because it makes me pee, especially at night. But they have done studies that have shown that a lot of falls are the result of mild dehydration, just mild. I don't feel terribly thirsty, but I'm dehydrated. And being dehydrated can affect the delicate mechanism of your balance and your equilibrium, and it can affect how your muscles are working. And they say that a lot of falls can be prevented just by drinking enough water. And then the question is, well, how much water to drink? And talking about it is making you thirsty. Does anybody know how much water we're supposed to drink?
6 to 8 glasses a day. 8 or less.
6 to 8 glasses. And so that's
That's a lot of water.
it's a lot of water. That's a lot of water. Which is why when people talk about, you know, well, 6 to 8 glasses, how do I keep track of all that? Just with my kids, I say, well, you know, of course with my kids, I buy them a bottle, and some of our folks in therapy, I'll buy them a bottle, I'll say, well, get a bottle. Then you'll know exactly how much water you're drinking. This holds, I think it's 24 ounces, which isn't nearly enough, because I think the 6 to 8 glasses, isn't it 8 ounces? Or, yeah, so 6 times 8 is 48, that's 48 ounces. My goodness, so it's 2 of these, right. So my goal would be, if I'm not a very good water drinker, to just drink half. Just drink half. Not all at once, because that's terrible. The reason you don't want to drink it all at once is it makes you feel kind of sloshy. And then, ugh, I don't want to drink any more of that. So you just drink little sips throughout the day. And then, hey, I got down to half a bottle. And maybe in a couple weeks or another month, you shoot for a full bottle. And then maybe after that, you shoot for 2 bottles during the day, just during the day. And in terms of, well, what else counts? Because a lot of people say, well, what else counts for water? They used to say coffee and tea didn't count. They've changed that. They thought that the caffeine was too much of a diuretic. And now, again, in fact, I was telling someone that, and a doctor overheard me and said, hey, wait, the latest research says tea and coffee count. So you get to count that. Alcohol does not count, unfortunately. The diuretic in alcohol actually makes us pee more than we're taking in. Folks who are lovers of beer will tell you, the old saying, you're only borrowing beer, you're actually peeing out more than you're drinking in. So alcohol, unfortunately, does not count as fluid intake. But this is something real simple that everybody can do to improve their balance. Any other questions? Yes.
Are there any other pieces of furniture that can help you get up, if not sit down?
Well, there, I would say chairs. The problem is that a table is probably going to fall over. It's too high. There are some other techniques that show people coming up to a bed and getting their arm here. This is very difficult to do. I would need a lot of range of motion and a lot of strength in my arm to try to get myself onto a bed. But I can do the same with a bed if I'm, coming up the same technique. I do this, I spin around, and I kind of collapse onto the bed. So a sturdy chair, a couch, a bed, that's probably about it. You wouldn't want to pull up on a walker, on a table. An end table, maybe. If it's one of these big blocky things, again, that if I come up on here like this, and as I go to get up, there's the problem. I don't know if I can sit on the end table. Because remember, I'm not getting myself up, and this is where I wouldn't recommend, and then standing up. Because with all that struggle and stress and change of position, I wouldn't recommend standing up. So just to grab a little example over here, this little end table, I really couldn't use this to sit on. I've really done it now. Oh, Connor's gonna be so cross with me. He's gonna say you ruined it. There we go. All right. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna be sufficient. I could get it here like this, but then I wouldn't want to turn around and sit on it, because then most likely I'm gonna fall over. So I wouldn't use anything else. I would stick with a chair, even a recliner. I wouldn't go with something that was rocking. Unfortunately, some of the recliners that you see, when they're in the upright position, they rock. We tend not to recommend those. If you're gonna get a recliner, right now because of the pandemic, I don't know if anyone has tried to buy a recliner. There's a global shortage of recliners. It's absolutely incredible. First it was toilet paper, and then recliners.
How about grab bars?
Well, the tricky part with a grab bar is that if I've got a grab bar here, number one, I gotta reach up to it. And then I gotta get up here. And then I gotta struggle. And then the only thing is, I have no place to sit, most likely. And probably the only place you have a grab bar is the bathroom. And you'd probably want to, if you could, if you're in the bathroom and you can reach the grab bar, again, you want to get to the toilet, to sit on the toilet seat. We do tend to recommend shower chairs. I know a lot of the apartments have both tubs in one bathroom. It seems like all the apartments that I've seen have two bathrooms. One has a tub and a shower, one has a shower stall. The chairs that we recommend usually can go in either one, in the shower stall or in the tub. We just don't recommend that everybody sit down on a shower chair while showering, just because of the fact that you're on a slippery surface, you're barefooted, you're wet, you're slippery. Falls are certainly a very high risk. Whew. This is very good. Oh yes, hello.
I have these chairs.
The very chairs, good heavens.
Very chairs.
Wow.
And they swivel.
Oh dear. Yeah. And that's the other thing we tend not to recommend a whole lot. And you know, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but you know, and I'm just sort of thinking about my own home and my own furniture. You know, how often do you buy new furniture? Well, you don't. You know, maybe once every 25 years. You know, when it wears out or you move, and of course you're bringing stuff that you've had for years and years. But we see an awful lot of office chairs, or we see a lot of swivel chairs. And so, yes, unfortunately, as I'm getting up into this thing and it begins to swivel, it's gonna knock me back onto the floor. So I'd want to probably try to shoot for something that didn't swivel.
You were
Yes.
about to make a comment about, recliner chairs, and I think you didn't make it fully, did you?
Oh, I do that a lot, don't I?
No.
That's why I have a little spot here so my coworkers can give me a little, you didn't finish your thought. The thought is that we recommend that if you're gonna pick out a reclining chair, whether it's a power or not, and a lot of people say, well, should I get one of those ones that lifts you up or just reclines? And I would say that's totally personal preference, but what I would recommend you not get is a lot of the old recliners, when you brought the lever up into the seated position, it now becomes a rocker. Or it swivels and rocks sometimes. So what happens is I get to go up, it rocks backwards away from me, and it also begins to swivel. And so we say, you know, if you're gonna pick out a recliner, get one that doesn't swivel or rock when it's in the up position. It's nice and solid. Yes?
Would you want to remind people of the emergency switch in the bathrooms that's on the 1-volt cord?
Yes, oh, absolutely. Other than your...
They don't have the purse on it.
Mhm.
The switch is there.
That's true, that's a very good point. In the bathrooms, there's a pull cord. And I know a lot of people find it kind of bothersome, you know, because it dangles down to the ground. And they'll, you know, tuck it behind the grab bar, or they'll tuck it over the water faucet. But the whole point of the call bell in the bathroom with the long string is in anticipation of if you wind up on the floor, you have easy access to a string that's way down toward the floor, and you can pull. And that's true. So you wouldn't have to wear your PERS into the shower, because I believe this is true of all the showers. Now, is it also the bathrooms with the tub and shower? They have the little pull cord too? Fantastic. Good. So then you don't have to wear your PERS into the shower. You just want to take it off, set it on the sink or something. That's true. I tell a lot of folks about of course it would be the lifeline if they're going to the outside community, of course to homes that don't have pull bell systems, to, you know, put their lifeline or their other device somewhere down low. You know, put it on the toilet seat when they're getting into the shower, so if they wind up on the floor of the shower, they can just reach out of the stall, and there it is on the toilet.
And I have one of those sheets.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I've got a whole bunch. There we go. Super. And maybe, just so I'm thinking, well, if I put these somewhere, there'll be a mad rush for them, because everyone wants one. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna lick my finger now. I know that's terribly unsanitary. You guys will have to, there. Just, okay, very good. Oh, Bill's already on, yes, you have a question? Oh, did you also have a question? Oh, yes, absolutely. Hello, how are you?
Fine, I have a question.
Yes, absolutely. Hello.
If you buy a walker, what do you think of them,
I'm listening.
where you put it out with your hand?
Yes, there's one called, hello. What is it called? Up walker? Yes, an up walker. Did you know that? Okay, sure. Yes, it's a tall walker. We actually have a couple of those in the gym. Okay. Sure. Alrighty. your best bet is if you're deciding on some kind of a fancy walker, is to see if you can schedule an appointment to come in and visit Lois, our physical therapist. She'll assess you with a walker. We have one of just about every walker they make, even some really bizarre looking ones. Yes, yes. And she can assess whether or not it's a good device for you or not. Because some of the things that they show online, or they, oh, I'm sorry, or that they show on TV, you know, works for the person on the commercial, but not necessarily for you.
Some of them, when it says waterproof, it just says so you can wear it in the shower or the bathtub, but does that mean the pool also? If it says, no?
I would think probably not. But I do know that Woodland Pond has that buddy system. And I think the purpose of the buddy system is so that if you get into trouble, the buddy doesn't come in to, oh yes, the buddy doesn't come in to rescue you, the buddy just runs for help, which is what the buddy is supposed to do. Which sounds a little, you know, selfish, you know, why aren't you helping me? But they're, oh, super keen. Good heavens, did I run out? I'll have to make some more. Definitely. Yes, yes.
A lot of people have smartwatches. And the purse is good for the building and the other things, but the smartwatch has something called fall detect application on it. And you can have it, it's free. And what it will do is register an emergency number. If you fall, it senses, I guess, from a drop or a sudden stop.
Right.
Which is what a fall is, that you've fallen, and it will call that emergency number. It will ask have you fallen, and then it will call that emergency number. So if you're outside the building, that's an option.
That's true. That's true. And of course, you know, nowadays, for folks who are out and about, because of course the PERS system only works in the building, and I think when you're just on the grounds, if you go too far, it stops working. But a cell phone. Just about everybody has a cell phone. It doesn't have to be a smartphone, and what I understand is that you can still buy, in fact I had one for years and years, a simple dumb phone as they call them now, just the little flip phones. They cost still about $4.99. In the drugstore, maybe it's $19 now. But they're just simple phones that if you're out and about, you can dial for help. You can dial 911, and that works anywhere. In fact, actually, you don't even need a phone plan. Any fully charged cell phone will dial 911. Yes?
Cell phone does not work down in the cages.
Oh, no?
No. Cell phone doesn't work if you go down to your cage.
Good heavens. Well, maybe that would be where you definitely want to have your PERS, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, dear. Well, do the PERS work in the basement?
Yes.
Oh, good.
What is the name of that $4 gadget?
Oh, well, just what they call it, a flip phone. You know, in fact, I see them in the drugstores. They're still advertised, generally, of course, to seniors. A lot of folks tend to be, my goodness, it took me forever to get used to a smartphone, and without kids, I'd be lost. Anything electronic, they can figure out instantly. They still tease me that I don't do my texting correctly.
It's a track phone that you're talking about.
Yes, like a track phone, right? It's sort of a pay-as-you-go.
Gas station.
Yes, yep, they're about, you know, $5-10, and you don't have to buy the plan, you just buy the phone and keep it fully charged, and any phone will dial 911. Yes, yes.
Question, in Woodland Pond, a long hallway, no chairs or nothing, what happened, what should you do?
Well,
And nobody will help you because it's against the rule to let you stay there. They won't help you, they won't touch you, they won't.
well, there's a couple options. One would be to talk to the Woodland Pond Resident Committee and say, hey, we need more chairs along the hallway. One would be, if you feel like you needed one of these rollators, that, you know, if you got tired, you lock the brakes, turn around and have a seat and rest. Or are you talking if I fell in the hallway? You fall in the hallway. Well, that's what I'm trying to then get the message out to employees, you know, in terms of getting them trained to coach you through this technique. Because it's still your option. You know, and the fact that you guys have been through the training, you know, if you come across someone who has suddenly fallen or you witness someone falling, again, we don't want anyone to injure themselves helping the other person. But knowing this technique, you might be able to say, well, hey, are you okay? Yes, I'm just embarrassed and I need to get up. Okay, let me get a chair and I'll bring you the chair. And you can probably get some other folks to assist, and then we can coach the person.
They won't give any assistance here.
Well, they're not supposed to physically assist, that's correct. But what they are doing is they're changing the policy in that they no longer have to call 911 to get you up. One of the things they're doing, and I don't know if it's official yet, but I know that it's in the plans that if enough people come to trainings like this, and someone notices you're on the ground, and you say, you know, and then I'm called to assist, but I can't physically touch, but I can say, are you injured? No, I can move my arm. Can you move your other arm? Yes, I can move my leg. Move my other leg. If you just get me a chair, I know how to get myself up. So just go get a chair, and then we can get a chair. So then if I can then watch and at any point, you know, if you feel, and again, I would just be your coach. I would say, if at any point it starts to hurt, get back down on the floor, I gotta call 911. But right now, that's kind of the policy that is the written policy, that, you know, if I'm an employee and I come across someone who's on the floor, I have no choice. Even if you tell me I'm uninjured and I know how to get up, if you don't get up, I gotta call 911. So now we're trying to change that. Obviously, if you're hurt, we gotta call 911. But if you're not hurt and you've taken this training, or if it's an employee who's taken one of my other trainings, the fallen person training, then they can coach you through the process of getting up. But there's nothing yet official as of yet, but you're right. It's still sort of they can't physically help. But my training doesn't tell people to physically help either. It's just a way that I coach people, because what happens is invariably, the person ends up this way, and they can get up here, and they say, just give me your hand. Come on, just give me your hand. I can get up, I feel fine. Give me your hand. Now, you're stuck. It is impossible for someone to get my hand and then, get me up without both of us winding up on the floor. So that's the only issue. Everyone does it wrong. Instinctively, they want to get into a sitting position and then get up this way. But it's very difficult to do. I have to do this. And if someone's with you, they can get you a chair. And then there's the other technique I train, it's called the 2-chair method, is once I'm up like this, and I'm like this, someone else, whoop, gets a chair up behind me, and I fall back into it. That's the only difference in the technique, as opposed to turning around and sitting myself, which you could do if someone was helping you too. So I'm hoping that, you know, you guys will spread the word, and I can do this training session again, and you can talk to your wait staff and the maintenance staff and say, hey, did you take that training with Jonathan? I've had just a few people, and I think the word has stopped circulating that I offer this training to other employees. So if you guys spread the word, hey, the rehab director is training employees to help us. It's not so much help, he said to coach. That's the word I'm looking for. Because we cannot risk, just for liability's sake, if someone's on the floor and I go to move them, you know, sometimes it gets a little goofy with liability. Oh, I moved them the wrong way and I made the break worse, or you weren't broken and now you are broken and it's all my fault. And I feel terrible. So it's really just training to be a coach. Just like right now, I'm not going to run to your apartment and help you up. I'm teaching you how to coach yourselves, how to get yourselves up. Hello.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Do you think it would be advisable to have this program at independent and to
assisted living?
Well, the only difference is, because of the licensing with assisted living, if you fall on the floor, you must be assessed by an RN. So you have to stay put, and the staff makes you as comfortable as possible while you wait for an RN assessment. And they come and they assess you while you're on the floor, and they document in the chart that you know, nothing was broken, and then they have to assist you up.
Just wondering.
So it really just pertains to independent living.
A question?
Yes, yes.
Have you ever heard of a situation where someone was able to use the toilet as a chair in the bathroom to get up?
Sure. I haven't heard of that personally, but I think that might work. Because again, you know, if you can get yourself up, and you can get, you know, in this position on the toilet, you know, obviously you'd want the toilet seat down, but you could do the same thing, you know, by coming up and getting onto the toilet. And then you just sit and rest for a bit. And it's very, very important that after you've done all this, that you just rest. That you don't immediately try to stand up again. All righty. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you all. Thank goodness. All righty. And again, if you know, you guys would like me to do this again, and we can invite other people down, I would gladly oblige. Yes, you certainly can. You're welcome. That's true. That's right. Hello. Oh, yes. Oh, dear. That's a great
Hi, Melba.
Well, thank you very much for letting me take a look at it and for letting you wear it. Yes, yes, ma'am. Just want to sit right here. Or why you should be right here. I think this is, oh, here it is, 30s. No, this just does good. But I would say they're at Walgreens, they have all kinds of ones, they have different spouts. You do want to find one that you like the top of. A lot of them you have to suck through, people hate that. Other ones have big openings that don't have a spout, you have to do it this like sort of like a bell jar. I like this one because I like to feel it. Oh, thanks. Thanks very much.
Excuse me, could I get card? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Pete, I'm gonna go to my car and come right over to walk Skipper.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
He'll be waiting for you.
So, yeah,
He's glad to see you.
good.
I'm just thinking, unfortunately, we take a look at
I think that Dell's, we did do that.
I wish I had something
absolutely right.
that bring back. So that I promised John that if there is
Well,
such a thing.
Well, they have something that are this way.
Yes, yes,
I
absolutely.
want to ask